the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars. We are the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. Welcome to Business Rockstars. Joining me right now, Amber Brandner. She is the CXO and co-founder of Trippin. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah.
So first of all, I've got to call out the CXO. What does CXO stand for?
So in my case, it means Chief Experience Officer. And I think it's a bit of a new title. Really, my team said you have to choose a title. And I said, okay, this really embodies what I'm doing. So I worked on our user experience, so building out our interface, thinking about how each frame links to the next and what the kind of inclination of the user is when using a platform. And then beyond that, I'm really interested in how communities experience each other, experience a place. So building out experiences, just like I taught a yoga class in San Francisco the other day for one of our communities. So really embodying that Trippin is a place for experiences, not just a destination.
Cool. So you've alluded a little bit to what Trippin is, but if you could give us the full scope, what is Trippin?
So Trippin is kind of born out of this need for connection in a world of travel that is oftentimes saturated by ads or destination-driven or platforms that are impersonal or not trusted. And so what Trippin is kind of in this middle part between the individual user and the communities that we already trust. So it's a way for people to build trips for their future based on the suggestions of friends. And it's also a way to tap into a community no matter where you are in the world. So we believe that our communities are an extension of ourselves and that communities as brands even oftentimes are made up of individuals that are really embodying and taking that community or brand out into the world. So it's this place of both informing what we identify as community. So the individual user and the communities themselves. Imagine a community manager, like at Outsite where we met, meeting in the middle and saying, this is the worldview that we see. And so we're interested in what happens when these communities and community members start to cross-pollinate, if you will, or meet each other out in the world and have experiences together.
So that's one of the goals, is really to have that human touch and that connection in person, not only getting the suggestions on places, but meeting at those places and connecting with people that are like you.
Exactly. So I believe that with all of the AI and robotics and beautiful things that are happening in the world of tech, our human connections are going to be more valuable than ever. And we're all just kind of longing for a moment where we see each other. I think one of the most powerful gifts we can give is the gift of listening deeply, to really hear somebody and to see someone and to make enough space in our hearts and in our minds that that person can be whoever they want to be. So I think that travel inherently unravels you and lets you be guided by your own intuition. But I think that this desire for connection to something outside of just that experience is super important to recognize. And it's really what makes travel so rich, is the people that you meet along the way. So if you add a little bit of intention into it and leave room for like the serendipitous moments, we're curious what we're capable of.
So how did you come up with this idea?
So I was consulting with a company called Overnight that's actually based out of LA, and they do last-minute bookings with local hosts. It's like Airbnb meets Hotels Tonight. And I actually ended up at that place working with that team because I took a leap of faith. I had started a co-working space in San Diego, a collective of entrepreneurs and artists, and that was a struggle. And I was just like, what am I going to do? And I had a friend that I met at South by Southwest, like 4 years prior, reach out to me and say, I'm building out this experience for Coachella. I need you. I think you can do something amazing with it. So I had all these resources with the collective I had built out. We go in, build out this amazing experience. Overnight happens to be there, co-creating this event. While I was there, I met one of my co-founders, Andreas, who used to be head of global expansion for Airbnb. He and I just connected on our feelings about community and the need for a space without commerce. So we really just had this in the back of our minds. And he went to a college reunion. Fast forward now, this is like several months later. And we're in New York, and we're launching overnight in New York. And my contract's ending, and I'm like, okay, like, what's next, right? Consulting, try to do the workshops more, like, where am I headed? And Andreas went to a college reunion and met somebody who was interested in creating a platform very similar to what we're created. And he shared his vision, and Andreas said, I know exactly the person you need to work with to make this happen and to build community the way you see it. And so very quickly, Andreas and myself are on phone calls with our headsets, walking down some Manhattan street with our co-founder and investor. And it happened really quickly. And we just got into a team meeting within a week from then and started ideating and building out on whiteboard, just looking at the things that we loved, thinking about the things that we didn't love and how we wanted to solve the problem of just being tapped into the place that you're at through the lens of your community and the communities that you love. And so it's been a journey, and our team has grown a bit, and it's all been through connections through the communities that I've been part of. And
cool. So cool. Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to talk more about this concept of community and why it's so important to you. How do you build one? That and so much more. We are the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet, and this is Business Rockstars. We are the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. Welcome back to Business Rockstars, where we are continuing our conversation with the CXO and co-founder of Trippin. So what do you think is the key to building a strong community that revolves around common values?
So identifying the values that you share first, and making sure that's aligned. Sometimes we want to believe that we're aligned, and we're not. We need to be honest and explore that vulnerably. Vulnerability is huge, right? Because you can only go so far in any relationship without vulnerability. So by tapping into that, I think you exponentially grow the possibilities.
How do you think that manifests in a business, for example, or when you're creating a community? Like, where is there opportunity to be vulnerable within a community you're building?
Well, I think we live in a society that has not quite promoted sharing the bad. Not just sharing the bad, but sharing the difficulties, the struggles. There's something shameful that we put out there. Like, it's all supposed to be so easy.
Right.
And I think that with having a safe space to be vulnerable, we actually become more of who we are. I think everything that we can be is kind of within us and around us. And making those connections to what really aligns for us is only accessible when we're willing to, like, drop the shield that we wear. And while the world is tough and it feels sometimes safer to wear that, that veil, I think that there's something really beautiful that happens and opens up in the world when we're willing to feel the good and the bad. So, yeah, I think
so creating that space for both yourself and for your team, for your audience, your community, to be vulnerable themselves, to basically be themselves, good and bad, and then for you to show up and be yourself as a leader, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's also a community recognizes that we're all in it, that if any one of us wasn't, it wouldn't be the same. And that all of us are adding a value. And so it's important in leadership, You hear like a great leader leads by example. And I think that that vulnerability and that tapping into like your truth and leading from this place where you're being all of who you can be in every moment. And there's a great quote of like, your best will change from time to time, but always do your best. It's written in the 4 Agreements. And I love that book. And I go back to it when I feel off. But I think that we need to remember that and have compassion for each other and, not feel like we have to be this typecast of a person to belong. So for me, community is like just oozing with acceptance and is extremely welcoming, and by nature is going to nurture.
Really cool what you're doing. And real quickly, if you could share with everyone some of the other stuff that you work on, because I think it's also very cool, to your point of not fitting in a box, that you don't just work on Trippin. You have all these other beautiful projects that you're constantly simultaneously working on.
Yeah, life is a juggling act right now. So Trippin is my passion. And it's been a year in the making, and it's a long road. If you ever start your own business, it's not an instant gratification, right? And so something that is kind of instantly a feeling of win is when I work as a production designer. So I'm a CXO. I create experiences, right? I've talked a lot about that. I've done production, event production. I love getting people together, having conversations that need to be had about our future, about our present. And in that, there's some bit of an artist in there. And creating these spaces has led me to some jobs in LA doing production design. And it wasn't something I had sought out so much as something that came into my path that I said, I actually really enjoy this. I've met some amazing people at Green Glow Films, and I love working with them because it's a very collaborative process, and I feel super empowered. So I've done that. I do websites. I do graphics. Video, editing, camera. I've filmed for speakers and built speaker reels. And I love consulting with people on their story and their kind of story strategy. So if the stories we tell become who we are, understanding who you want to become, the stories that are going to support that. We have so much to choose from. Why do we choose the same few things over and over to recreate who we are? Like, let's get a little creative and understand what's possible through exploration.
Beautiful. On that note, thank you so much for making us one of your stops on your journey across the United States. Right? So fun hearing about your incredible business. Thank you. We are the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars.